Can you truly listen to somebody else's perspective and not think about your own agenda? If you can, you are a rare breed, because this is very difficult. It is hard to turn off our agenda long enough to really listen to what someone else is saying. It's actually scientific. Our brain, what it does is it likes to pull in information, take that information, put it in the bank here, and compare it to what else we know. This is why when you hear somebody else saying something and it triggers something in you, you stop listening. Because what we do is we do a lot of filling in the blanks. Somebody might say something that triggers a memory, and that memory has this whole narrative that comes along with it. A whole set of feelings, you have an outcome to pull from that situation, and you start feeling like, here we go again, this is the same thing. That's usually not the case. It's very rare that history repeats itself and that you meet in new people someone you've met from your past who did specifically bad things to you. That's not usually the case, but what happens is something will trigger us. We stop really listening to what this person is saying, and we start thinking about what we're going to say next. That's really not how getting through an argument or a conversation works properly. And when I say properly, all I mean is you're not going to get anywhere if you take the approach of, oops, that reminds me of something, let me stop listening. The best way to be your own mediator, the best way to be a better salesperson, and just to, in general, have smoother conversations, is to try to be your own mediator. What that means is put yourself in a mindset where you are focused on one thing only at a time. That's what mediators do. They take two sides of a story. They take turns listening to one side, remembering it, listening to another side, remembering it, and then asking a series of questions to the two of you about what they heard in order to kind of get somewhere and come to a common ground and figure out what's going on here. You can do that for yourself, but it requires an emotional intelligence level of being able to say to yourself, okay, I know I'm human. I know I'm going to come to conclusions when this person starts talking because I feel like I've been down this road before, but you're going to go into this with the mindset of, I am here to listen first. I want to understand this person. And when you go into a conversation saying that I want to understand this person, odds are, you guessed it, you're going to understand them because that's your goal. Your goal isn't to get defensive, look for something they say, use it against them. That's not the goal. Asking someone to tell you their side of the story, why they feel the way they feel so that you can better understand them, is absolutely the best way to start a conversation when your main goal is actually to come to a common ground and get past whatever this is. What I like to call that is bridging. In communication, it's a very streamlined process. It doesn't matter what the conversation is, it should go like follows. Listening, acknowledging what this other person is saying, which does not mean you agree with them. It simply means I am sitting here present with you. I am listening to you. I have understood what you have said. And because you are a human being with an opinion, you should feel validated and heard. Not agreed with, just heard. And we get that mixed up a lot as humans because when we don't agree, we really don't want to make it sound like we agree. But that's not what acknowledgement is. Acknowledgement is the best setup for you to get what you want in a conversation. So again, we're listening. What is this person's problem? What is the issue? But we're going to go into that with a very unemotional, non-judgmental, incredibly important for it to be a non-judgmental presence that you have about you within your tone of your voice, as well as the volume of your voice and the words that you choose. So listening looks a lot like this and sounds a lot like this. Notice you're not talking. Listening involves no talking. Mostly people don't listen because they're thinking about what they want to say when it's their turn to talk, but you're not going to get anywhere that way. If you listen first, acknowledge what this person has said to you by repeating what they have said and saying things like, I want to make sure I've understood what you have said to me fully. From what I am hearing you say, you feel like this, this, and this, and what you want to happen is this. I can appreciate that that's how you feel now that I understand your thought process. That is acknowledgement. It's not saying, you're right, I'm wrong. It's not admitting some kind of defeat. It's giving this person the opportunity to feel like they matter to you and that they matter enough for you to shut up for a minute and just listen. Now we're going to start moving forward in the conversation. This is, again, you being your own mediator. This is, again, you being an incredible salesperson, and you haven't said anything really yet. All you've done is repeat what this person has said to make sure that they feel like they have been heard. Because when they feel like they've been heard, there is a natural human instinct to then take turns and listen. You have earned the right to say something in this other person's opinion when you take the time to listen. You listen, you acknowledge. Now it's time to transition. And what transition means, it's time to get to the point. I can appreciate you feel like this. I wasn't aware that you felt like this. Whatever other information they give you that you might not know. Now, I want to move forward and come to an agreement on XYZ. So I believe in order to do that, we need to take into account your feelings on XYZ, which you have just told me and I have just acknowledged. And I want to also add what I have to say. Here is the key thing with transitioning. Do not use the word but. I hate the word but. Only use the word but when you literally either want to get into an argument or this is a vital piece of information that somebody has drastically wrong and it's a game changer in the conversation. But in general, always use the word and. So rewinding, going back, we've listened, we've acknowledged, and we're transitioning by saying, now that I understand what you feel, and I'm so glad that you took the time to explain that to me. And when I'm saying this to this other person that I want them to feel acknowledged and that I'm transitioning now, I want them to really feel like I am glad they told me how they feel. Because the truth is, in conversations, mediation, and sales, the best way to get this to really work out in your favor is to mean what you say. And conversations not only work better when you listen, acknowledge, transition, and then close the conversation, but it's more than they just work better. They feel better. It's an honest way to have conversations. And so when you're transitioning, you're now saying and I want us to come to a conclusion because I think there is a solution to this problem, or if it's sales, there's a solution to your problem and it's this product I have and here's why. Here are the benefits, not the features. And we're saying and. Through the transition, we are going to be able to hopefully pull things together. It means we are in a place in the conversation where I've listened to you, I've acknowledged you, I've interjected my own opinion, and I've expressed that I want us to come to an agreement here and work together. I'm not combative, I'm very inclusive. I'm not using the word but, I'm not saying however you're wrong. I've listened to you, I've acknowledged you, and then saying, but forget all that. Here's what I have to say. See how those words are so powerful? But will hit you different. Think about when you've had a conversation with someone and you've really poured your heart out. And the first thing they say is, but I don't feel that way. It makes you feel like you've wasted your time. So in an effort to not do that to someone, you say, I've heard you, I've understood you, and this is how I feel. Boom. Here we get to a point where we're pausing in the conversation. And here's where it can go a couple different places. Again, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. All conversations work this way because we're always dealing with human beings in a conversation. You say, and I want to do XYZ in order to get to a conclusion. If they really are in control of how they emotionally feel about this whole situation, and they are open to really making this work, they'll probably give you a really positive response. And it might shock you, because odds are you're going through your conversations like everybody else in the world, like a human. And when we let this go on autopilot, guess what? We don't listen, we don't acknowledge, and when we transition, we say but and however a lot. And we do this instead of this. So we've gotten to that transition. The other person could not like what you have to say, even though you've acknowledged them. If they show any sign of animosity, if their tone goes up, if they start talking faster and it seems like they're getting really energetic and they're pushing back to you, you are now at the part of the conversation that I like to call the bridge. And what we do on the bridge is we figuratively are thinking about preventing this person from jumping off of a bridge and ending this conversation because their emotions have taken over. So the way we do that is, if they're not controlling their tone, we're going to control ours, because it is very hard to remain angry at someone who is speaking to you like this and is intentional with what they're saying, and they're making eye contact with you. There's an earnestness about it. Their tone is controlled, just like this. You can tell I have conviction in my voice, because I'm not going there with you because I care about this. I'm not going there at your heightened level of maybe either anger or frustration. I'm not going there with you because my goal is I want you to feel that the only purpose I have here is to come to a good conclusion that we're both happy with. I see that you're not happy right now, so cut. We're going back to the bridge here. This is me talking in the conversation. If this person has said, well, how could you say that? Or why would you say that? And I just told you how I felt, but you're suggesting something else. This is where you rein it in. And you can even be a little bit shocked that they're not really getting on board because you did take the time to listen and acknowledge them. This is when you remind them that you've done that. So, Johnny, I listened to what you had to say because it is important to me. It seems like you're still feeling like it's not. It is. Let me further explain that it is. I listened, I acknowledged, and I also want to contribute this to what is going on right now. I'm not negating what you're saying. I'm looking only for compromise. Getting one over on you is not something I'm interested in. Verbiage matters on the bridge, because your goal here is to make it so this person doesn't want to leave the conversation. If you think about conversations as tennis, what you want to be doing is playing tennis when you're talking to someone. You let them talk. You hit the racket, hit the ball. They let you talk. It's hit back. You let them talk. It's really give and take. So people are not set up to give and take really well, particularly in a hyper-connected society of quick, fast now. You can have avocados at your door with Amazon Prime in 2 hours. Quick, fast now. So patience isn't running at an all-time high. Understanding isn't running at an all-time high. Society is polarized, all that good stuff. These are all reasons, though, why you can be incredible in your conversations because of all that going on. If you are the one person that this person interacts with, you are actually probably the only person listening to them, because people don't listen. And if you earnestly are trying to make this work, whatever you're trying to conclude or cooperate with each other with, if you're genuinely doing that, people feel that, because it's so rare now. So if you've gotten to the point of the bridge and you're still dealing with someone that's having some emotions, your main goal is to quiet those and bring logic back into the picture. And the only way to do that is by acknowledging the emotions that they're experiencing and saying, okay, I wasn't expecting you to say that next, because I made this effort to listen and acknowledge what you had to say and also help us come to a conclusion. I can't get this conversation to come to an agreement without you, so I'm certainly not trying to put you into a corner. You see that verbiage? Do you see how that's different than, but, well, I feel this way. Well, no, you shouldn't feel that way. You should feel this way. Well, why would... You see how that typically goes? And there's so many examples, there's no need to even give one. But turn on the news, there you go. People talk at each other. You can be the person to talk with someone. When you go through these steps, you are being a mediator, and you can sell while you're mediating. You can make people happy while you're mediating. You can do anything with this process. I could tell you 1,000 stories of this working well. They don't matter. They don't matter because until you feel this working, you don't understand the power of it. Until you can convince yourself to turn your own agenda off when someone else is talking, you're never going to understand the power of this. When you give enough other people what they want, eventually you will get what you want. It's about taking turns and deciding, I'm never going first. I'm never going to express how I feel first because I want this other person to know that that is secondary in this conversation to what they are thinking, feeling, and experiencing and need from this conversation. And you make it very apparent that you are open and ready to have a full dialogue with this person. You're not going to get upset. They can get upset. You make that okay. But you're not going to do that because your goal is to make this work. Okay, so just to review, we've listened, we've acknowledged, we've transitioned, and we might have spent some time on the bridge where somebody's still not so happy. But if you're successful in getting them back off of that bridge, which I believe you can be, just because simply I've done it so many times and seen it done so many times, then you're at the point where you're going to review this conversation. You're going to thank them for their time, even if they said crazy things, because your ultimate goal is to get this to work. If up until this point, your conversations have gone like most conversations go, and it's a lot of talking at each other, that is okay. That is so human, and that is most of us. What I'm offering you is a way to get through your conversations much differently and actually become someone who is sought out to be a problem solver. And for me, there's no higher honor than for someone to be willing to come and sit down with you, knowing that you're not on the same page, but open up to you. That is a huge deal. So, moral of the story is here, you can absolutely be your own mediator. Your conversations can go better. Even if you have had knockdown, drag out conversations with a certain person and they haven't gone well, by changing up the strategy, you will be shocked and amazed at the power you have to change the way your conversations end and also set you up for a lot more positive things. Think about it. If you are in business and you start having great conversations with people, you are going to stand out. Those people will tell other people about you. And now you're really in a position to make big things happen just with your voice, just with taking the time to listen. I encourage you to try these steps when you're thinking about having to confront somebody that it's a much needed conversation. This is the video to refer to. This is what you come back to if you try to do it and it doesn't go right. I am telling you, it is okay if that happens. You will get many, many, many opportunities to get this right because conversations never end. We learn how to communicate when we are infants all the way until the end, whether it's crying or whatever. We're all looking for one thing, and that is acknowledgement. And if you can become the king or queen of acknowledgement, you've got something that most people don't have, and it's an incredible skill, and everything else will flow into that skill. So until next time, I hope you have happy, healthy conversations, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.